Welcome, folks, to another webinar held by Regenesis. Today, we have a very exciting topic, and it is entitled the Navigating the Shift of Online and Omni-Channel Sales. And with us, we have our honored and esteemed guests, who I'm going to ask to introduce yourselves very briefly. Please can I ask Jeffrey to introduce himself?
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Allison. If anybody refers to me as Jeffrey, it means that I'm in trouble. Jeff is usually my most common name. But head of marketing at Mitsubishi Motors South Africa for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was at Renault for 7 years as head of projects and innovations, as well as a product manager there. And prior to that, for my sins, I was in advertising for about 7 years. And for a large chunk of that, I looked after the Renault account. So very much experience in the advertising and marketing space.
Thanks, Jeff. If I can have you go ahead, Asanda.
Good day, everyone. My name is Asanda Mzenyati. I'm the executive for business development at AIDC, which stands for Automotive Industry Development Center. It's a government entity under GGDA, which falls under the Department of Gauteng Economic Development. We're based in Roslyn. We're the implementing agent to transform the automotive sector in the Gauteng region. And my background is in engineering. I've got 30 years experience in the automotive sector, ranging from Mercedes-Benz in the factory in East London to Ford, back to Mercedes-Benz in head office, Volkswagen and Altec Nesta. Ran my own businesses as a transaction advisor and also as an advisor in the fleet management space and doing turnaround strategies for government institutions. And yeah, I'm back into the employment space now at AIDC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asanda. Please can I have Benjamin?
Yes, hello. My name is Benjamin Nagel. I'm the General Manager Sales and Distribution for BMW South Africa. I'm here since 3 years in this role. Before I had various roles in Europe or Germany for BMW, also in a retail outlet, and also some 4.5 years in India for BMW and Mini. And I'm looking forward for our discussion today.
Thanks, Benjamin. Tato?
Hi, my name is Tato Legeta. I'm currently brand consultant at VW SA in passenger vehicle section. Been with the company not too long, actually, it's just 5 months at the moment. Prior to that, I've been in the oil and gas sector for quite some time. Also advertising, clients within the motor vehicle sector as well when I was in advertising, and also tech side as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Tato. Last, we have Christo.
Last but not least, thanks for the opportunity. I'm Christo Valentine. I'm the head of marketing at Kia South Africa. I've been in this role for about 3 years now. With Kia for 9 years in total. So I've looked after various parts of the marketing department in that period. And prior to that, a little bit of everything, mostly journalism for about a decade, specializing in motoring. A brief stint in automotive component manufacturing before that. And then a few other things that will write off to the foolishness of being youthful.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Christo. Guys, my name is Kapil Jagat, and I'm the CEO for Regenesis Corporate Education, as well as joint COO of Regenesis Group. Now, many of you don't know, but Regenesis is not just a business school. Founded in 1998 with the intention of creating conscious leaders. And if you look at where we find ourselves today, globally and locally speaking, we are in dire need of conscious leaders. Today, Regenesis is not just a business school, but a group of companies. You know, we have the business school, we have a digital Regenesis business that does online training and upskilling on various salient and trending topics. We have corporate education, we have a Reg Cafe, we have a talent and recruitment company, and we have a health and wellness business called Healthy. We also have an investment and equity business called My Wealth. So guys, in addition to that, Regenesis has created a non-profit organization. And this organization was created out of the founders sort of wanting and need to create access to education for everyone. And this is called Ed for All. In Ed for All, Regenesis allows students who are disadvantaged to access business school qualification for as little as 500 Rand a month. And the idea is that, once they get employment after 3 years, they probably pay us back. And, the idea is to break the cycle of poverty. So I don't think many are in that space, or many are doing that. Last point, Regenesis is a level 1B contributor. And we've been helping corporates and industries alike for many years. So guys, welcome to our webinar on automotive retail, navigating the shift of online and omni-channel sales. Join us as we explore the transformative landscape of automotive retail, where digital innovation, changing consumer behaviors are reshaping the way vehicles are bought and sold. A lot of industries have been reshaped, and some industries are starting to be reshaped. One of them is the automotive industry. Let's try and discover key trends, strategies, insights to stay ahead in this dynamic industry. And let's embark on this journey together and unlock the full potential of an exciting discussion. Okay, I will go ahead with the first question from my question bank. My first question is about automotive retail in South Africa. And I want to direct this question to Christo. Christo, how has your company, or South Africa in general, embraced the rise of digital technologies in automotive retail sales?
Thank you for the question. Automotive retail sales in South Africa is naturally something that's quite well established. We have a multitude of brands in the country, and I think everyone is on this journey of embracing digital transformation in all its shapes and forms. I think the auto industry jumped onto digital, if I can use the umbrella phrase, quite early to harness the massive power that you get from raising awareness, from putting branded content out there, and also generating leads for sales. But as you pointed out, the actual sales process is now also changing. I think some brands are probably more ahead than others in terms of embracing the opportunities. But from a Kia perspective, we're part of a bigger group in South Africa, the Motors Group, just like Jeff and Mitsubishi. So we have a very strong focus on digital transformation and digital innovation. So we are continuously developing and testing solutions that speak to the omni-channel approach in terms of being available to your customer when your customer needs to reach you, being in a position to provide them with the information and the guidance that they might require at that point, and then also streamlining the car buying process as much as possible. It is quite a laborious process. Anyone who's been through it knows this. And I think there's a lot of pain points that we're all in a race to kind of minimize and just accelerate the speed in which people can be purchasing their vehicles.
Thanks, Christo. And guys, if you see me looking down, I'm just simply taking notes on important points. I think thanks for that, Christo. Leading on from that, my next question is to Tato. What are the key drivers behind the shift to online sales and omni-channel sales?
Thanks for that. I think some of the key points that have come up is there was a shift, I think, during and post-COVID in how people interacted as far as making their purchases, be it automotive and otherwise. There's been that move to fit in people's environments, fit into how they want to be purchased, to purchase and be approached the purchasing process as a whole. Very much a big on-demand economy has come into play, with people wanting things at their hands, be it browsing for vehicles and everything in that regard. So we have to meet them halfway. We have to fall into line with how people want to be approached to buy. And I think there was a big kind of drive towards lead gen and beyond lead generation. Just the whole CRM aspect of getting people's information and selling to them how they want to be sold and what specifics you know about them. So gathering information about our customer base has been a big shift on our end. I can speak for us specifically as VW. A lot of on our end dictate comes from Germany, of course, and how we approach these things, and we are shifting that daily to get more involved at meeting the customer at the touch points they want to be met at.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Tato. We heard from Christo how we've evolved, and we heard from Tato what are the key drivers around this evolution. My next question is, okay, if we as an automotive industry, particularly in the retail space, are there, what are the challenges, and I'm directing this question to Benjamin, what are the challenges of having an omni-channel approach? Because here you've got this huge spend by automotive companies on creating an online showroom and with all the information, pricing, etc. So customers are free to browse and read all the information, but then there has to be fulfillment in person. So what are the challenges in using these two channels together, Benjamin?
Yeah, so I think you elaborated quite well. The challenge is, on one hand, transparency is there everywhere, and it needs to be consistent to have a clear customer to fulfill the customer expectations. So wherever the customer is in his journey in this omni-channel world, being at home at the sofa or in our dealership, he wants the same information and needs to be consistent. And going more and more online, the reaction time in an online world is much quicker. So the response time, if someone contacts us, the expectation is much, much quicker. So we really need to adapt to this new world in sending a message and responding, no matter which channel the customer is using. And yeah, I think this transparency and consistency through all the different touch points is a key here, together with this response time.
Thanks, Benjamin. Asanda, I'm going to ask you the next question. With all this online investments and streamlining of the omni channels, do you think the skill sets of OEMs and dealerships require a shift or an adjustment? How are you guys embracing this through skills?
Thanks for the question. Well, from the AIDC side, as an implementing agent for the Gauteng government in the automotive space, we try and to be ahead of time in terms of skills development. We've got our own in-house learning center. We work with the likes of the Meercita, and we've got also international partners. Giving an example, with the upcoming electric vehicles, there's a skills shortage that is currently happening in the country. And as AIDC, we are engaging with ABB from Berlin, whereby we are doing skills transfer so that by the time the electric vehicles take an incline, we are ready with it. So when it comes to also to the online purchasing, as AIDC, as much as we are technical, we try by all means to be appropriate and to be in line with what the market is actually requiring. So once it actually takes off in South Africa, we will ensure as AIDC that we are in line and will be in a position to assist the automotive sector to ensure that the dealer network or the retail sector is actually well equipped in terms of the necessary skills and getting the necessary accreditations from the stakeholders that do the accreditation. So we work with the industry, we engage with them, we work closely with NAMSA, and we're trying by all means to stay up to speed what the industry requires. So once it takes off, we will ensure that the necessary skills are available and the necessary accreditation is available so that we can assist the automotive space. Thank you.
Thank you, Asanda. That's actually quite interesting. You guys have a very broad scope, and it's probably multi at different levels of skills. You know, it'll be interesting to see how the skills required for electric vehicles are integrated with the skills required for online sales of electric vehicles, because there's probably a lot of T's and C's you need to be producing. Anyway, my next question is to Jeff. You know, with online increasing its prevalence, you know, how do you see, or how has leveraging digital marketing strategies played a role in your businesses? You know, historically, we would shop around on a Saturday, and we would go to dealerships, we would read a magazine and look at a car, and we'll come on a Saturday to buy a vehicle. Now, you know, you've seen cars everywhere. So can you explain your approach to digital marketing and online sales?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Kapil. I think I think it's an interesting time. I think, you know, to something that you alluded to, I think kicking tires has certainly been replaced by clicking tires. In other words, you know, we certainly see that consumers walk into a dealership environment far more informed than ever before. And most of that information is really filtered through from digital channels. So, you know, finding people's opinions on a car at the moment is so simple. I mean, really, it's just about jumping onto your mobile phone to have a look at what people certainly think about a product or about a brand. So I think, you know, this idea of word of mouth back in the day, where you would listen to a few mates of yours, you know, social media now is word of mouth. It's E1. So we are seeing certainly a far more informed consumer walking to that dealership floor. But I think critically for us as marketers is, if we start understanding how they are moving through that purchasing funnel and through that cycle, I think these are the areas where we can really maximize. So in other words, we know that the research phase is fundamentally digital. So how do we engage in that digital research phase? How do we try and capture the hearts or minds of those consumers at that phase? I think to Christo's point as well, maintaining efficiency during this transaction process is critically important, because I think there's two factors here. One, what does the buyer want? They want a seamless, frictionless process, of course. But secondly, the seller wants that same process, because the more dwell time a customer has, the more time they have to shop around, the lesser the chance of them actually purchasing your brand and product. So it's absolutely critical to keep engaging with them every step of the way when it comes to digital marketing, and certainly shortening that path to purchase so we can ensure that sale gets over the line as quick as possible.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. You know, I've got a stat I'm reading here. It says the potential market size of online sales by 2030 could be 722 billion USD. At present, it's at 266 billion. Now, this is a global stat. I want to ask, and this question is to anyone who's willing to answer the question, what has been our experience as automotive firms with the take-up of customers and online procurement or sales? Nobody is willing to answer that.
I'll start. I think it's a very interesting question. I kind of agree with that stat. And I mean, if you look at it from a global perspective, and we're talking about billions of US dollars, you know, it's not actually impossible to get to a $700 billion industry in the next 5 to 6 years. I think that we will see massive lag in South Africa. I think you know, us car people, we tend to segment things quite often. And I think you need to consider the various brands in our country. I think Benjamin might probably be able to give us some insights from the luxury brands, because the model employed by luxury brands compared to the sales model employed by mainstream brands is vastly different. So in the mainstream brand world, we are not seeing a massive demand from customers who want to do an end-to-end online purchase yet. there's certain parts of that journey that people are quite keen on, but they do get stuck at the fulfillment phase, which they prefer to have in person. And, you know, to Jeffrey's point, if you are capturing and engaging those customers right through that research journey, by the time they walk into a retailer's space, they are literally there to verify a decision. So it's all about customer experience at the end of the day, to bring it down to one thing. And I think once we start replicating that in dealership customer experience that the industry's very worked on for decades, and marrying that with the opportunities of online, as well as educating consumers about the ease, the convenience, the safety, the transparency that comes from online sales, only then are we really going to start taking big strides forward.
Thanks, Christo. I see, Jeff, you have your hand up. You can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. Echoing what Christo said, I think if we're talking about an end-to-end digital solution, I think that future is very, very far away. I think what becomes critically important when considering this omni-channel experience is making sure that we give the customer or the potential customer the opportunity to dip into the digital world or the physical world however they see fit at any point of their purchasing, in any point of their purchase within that funnel. So in other words, you know, you may get a consumer that very much needs to test drive a car before they purchase it. That can only happen in the physical world. So the digital experience there would be booking a test drive online and perhaps even delivering a test drive to someone's home or to their place of work. But certainly this idea of an omni-channel end-to-end buying experience, I think is critically far away. I mean, if I had to ask anyone in the room who would purchase a house purely online end-to-end, they would say absolutely not, right? I think when you look at purchasing a vehicle, that will be probably your second biggest purchase ever. And for most people, currently it is their biggest purchase. And I think there is this semblance of having to experience that product. I think lastly, to Christo's point as well, I think, you know, obtaining ownership of a car is something that's an event. It really is an experience. And I think what we're certainly seeing in the SA market is that a lot of consumers still want that to feel like an experience. They still want that fulfillment in person. They still want that to certainly feel like this really great event. And then lastly, I think this rings true for many industries, but you know, people still buy from people. And I think when it's such a big purchase, you need this element of trust. And I think forming a relationship with a prospect or a potential customer is a critical part of this omni-channel experience. And I think the bigger question will be is, how do we maintain that relationship through every part of this conversion funnel with that customer in order to build trust and make sure that it happens quickly?
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. I see, Asana, you've got your hand up. I want to move to the next question. So if you can be brief on this one, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I would say with COVID pandemic, it has actually shifted the mindset of people to rely more onto online purchasing. And as we move along post-COVID, you would see that what used to happen, like with a lot of people do groceries online now, and they do a lot of purchasing online for deliveries, takeaways, and so forth. And the online purchasing has been there, but it has just been on the dealer front, because when you go and purchase a vehicle at the dealership, they spec it for you in front of you online. The only thing that we just has to happen now is to move it to the customer side, and for the individuals to know exactly how to spec their own vehicles and place that particular order. And more especially when it's a second purchase, you know the brand already. You are replacing your current vehicle. It's not a new brand that you want to test drive. If you're driving like Tato is from VW, if you're buying a VW Passat, you've had one, there's a latest one, you have read about it, you can just spec it, and you trust the brand, and you can purchase it online. and it's all in the mindset. That's the comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Asanda. My next question is, and this is again a very broad one. We can see the slow shift, and let me tell you, as somebody in the education industry, we were seeing the demand for online decades ago, but there was a huge resistance in the industry, and COVID came and wiped out some businesses in the education space. They were very resistant to change. So, my question to you, and now that we're online, we are benefiting tenfold as an education industry. People said, how can you learn online? You need a face-to-face experience. You need a teacher in the class. But that's changed very quickly. My question to you guys is, do you want your customers to buy from you online? That's the question I'm asking you
now. Could I come in on that one?
Sure.
I would say definitely yes. The amount of data you can collect online is fantastic. You want to get to know more people, more about their spending habits, their preferences, and getting that online is fantastic. We also have a growing number of digital natives coming into play now. Where it's not giving away my age or my family's age, but my parents versus me, for example. The way I would purchase, I think I'm more than willing to buy a car online. In fact, myself personally, I haven't as yet, but it's something I would definitely do. And I think with more digital natives coming into play and sharing information, and much to people's detriment, they do share quite a lot of information online. It can benefit marketers most definitely, and the entire sales journey as far as vehicle sales.
Thanks, Tato. Very interesting point. Data and statistics and information about the customers online. I see there's multiple hands up. I think, Christo, you can go.
I think Asanda actually raised his hand before me.
Okay, go ahead, Asanda.
Thank you. Currently, if we look at the used car market, there's a website for car for sales and all that. Basically, you are purchasing a vehicle online, and where it's based on the kilometers, the brand you're looking for, and you can spec it accordingly, and the kilometers that you are there, and the color you are looking for, and you can literally purchase a vehicle in Cape Town while you're sitting in Johannesburg. And it will come to a point where it's a mere fact of collecting it, that you actually physically kick the tire. And yes, on our side, with regards to the services that you are offering as AIDC, we would actually prefer an online interaction with clients, because we're dealing with industries, because you can be in a position to, I don't want to use the word to scrutinize the potential client, because once it's written down, you can fully understand and ask questions. And yes, as Tato have said, it's data kept so that you can know in the future what are the most frequently asked questions regarding our services. So online also assists to have a track record of your clients, and you would know that the client has bought a vehicle 5 years' time, so it's almost time to change, and you've got that data which you can utilize to generate more sales. So for us, yes, online would be much more preferable. Thank you.
Thanks, Asanda. Christo?
Thank you. Yeah, I want to echo what Tato and Asanda said to an extent. I think the distinction we need to make is that the full purchase process, I don't think there's anyone who is actually doing that online in South Africa at this stage. And that's purely because there are so many steps in the process that is quite heavily regulated. Up to 80% of vehicle sales is through bank finance. And that's heavily legislated from a FICA perspective. There's way too much paperwork involved, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, you can find the vehicle you're looking for online anywhere in the country, but you can't necessarily do a full end-to-end purchase online. But I think the second part to this is our industry, to a large extent, is not entirely set up for that utopian future where everything happens online, and as you alluded to at the beginning, where there is no physical retail space. I think if you look at the bigger picture of the industry, you know, besides our primary business of, in some instances, manufacturing, distributing, and in all instances, retailing cars, we're also massive property investment holdings. You know, most OEM brands, a lot of retailers, they own those properties, and it's massive investment. So taking that out of the economy has a massive impact that would need to be considered, which is another reason why it's quite far down the line, in my opinion.
Sure. Thanks, Christo. Jeff, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Kapil. I think it's a far tougher question than a simple yes or no answer, because the question is, do we actually want to sell cars online? And I think there's two sides to this coin. I think the first side is, the more frictionless we can make that conversation, the quicker we can sell cars, ultimately being more throughput, right? So it's akin to a restaurant. If you in one evening can turn a table 3 times, that's far better than turning it once, right? So there should be higher output on one hand and throughput. On the other hand, our dealer networks are the lifeblood of this industry. There are so many jobs and so many people employed at dealer level. You have to ask yourself, if this was an end-to-end utopian future, like Christo alluded to, what does that mean for all the people who work within the dealer network? What happens to all of those jobs? What happens to all of those people? And I think, again, to Christo's point, it's so far away because there's just so many interventions and red tape along the way in making that a purely seamless online process that I think, certainly for the foreseeable future, there will definitely need to be bricks and mortar. And happily for me, I think there'll still be a dealer network where we can see, you know, the families of lots of people being uplifted throughout the process as well.
Benjamin.
Yes, thank you. I agree that also from our perspective, the dealer and the retail outlets will play a really crucial role also in the future, even with more and more online sales and this omni-channel approach. It has to be hand in hand, but we will probably see new formats or more digital tools also in the showrooms, and a more interactive way of how we can show. Do we need to all have all the colors, or can we do this with new ways of 3D glasses or bigger screens that we can give a great experience in a digital form also at our dealerships? So I think there will be also a development over time that might reduce the footprint or the space that is required. But this is definitely only hand in hand and in a partnership with our partners. We started the journey at the BMW Group 3.5 years ago, going this direct sales omni-channel approach. We had customers from the really start to end that checked out the car completely. Yes, we have to hand over the car. Our experience clearly shows the customer wants to have this really free choice. When do I go digital? When do I go physical? And in both directions. And we see it in different levels. The information definitely starts online quite a bit, but then there's always one or the other part that is also physical with our partners. And we see this trend to continue with a slowly but steady increase of more and more online, but where the dealer partner or the retailer will play a crucial role also in the future.
Oh, thanks, Benjamin. You know, my next question, I was trying to save it for the end, but I think because you guys have touched on that point, I'm going to ask it now. You know, if you fast forward many years into the future, this utopian future, there's a customer sitting at his desk and he specs out his car to every single part, right? And he presses the order button, he pays for it, the order is received, as an example, by one of the OEMs at the factory, and they build that car according to that spec, right? Now, for me, I think that's the perfect future. You know, we don't live in a space where, I remember in the early days, we were like, oh, do you want to buy this brand of car because it's not a very good quality? Now, all OEMs, all automotive businesses are generally of very high quality. So my question is, if I think we're heading there, right? And I think the dealership space is not going to be there anymore, right? You're going to lose these jobs. I think in getting there, you're going to lose salespeople. A lot of salespeople lose their jobs because maybe online is doing the job for them. Commissions will be reduced, and you're going to require a completely different skill set. So, that's my view. So my question to you guys is, online is going to change consumer preferences, yes or no?
In automotive, yes, it will. And I think you will find that in some markets that just happens a bit more rapidly than in other markets. If I look at what Kia is doing in Korea and leading from the front, they're really embracing the future generations and adapting all the strategies for sales, for retail, for omni-channel, based on how your typical Gen Z early adopter consumer would like to engage with a brand. The reality is, though, that despite all of those things, and the Koreans call it the untact experience. So they don't want contact, they want it untact. Let us do our thing, you just deliver. Despite all of those things being in place and operating in a very technologically advanced market like Korea, they still have retail spaces. The focus does, however, change. It becomes more of a brand showcase where you are immersing that customer into the bigger picture of what your brand and your product is about. But there is still product demonstrations, and there is still feature demonstrations, etc. You can throw an entire computer into your car. You can do over-the-air updates, features on demand. That stuff happens already. People still want that human experience, but on their terms. So not permanently, not every point in time, but when they need it, they want a human interaction. And I think other brands, the one that comes to mind now is Polestar, Volvo's electric performance brand. Same model. You literally configure your entire car, every possible thing you want online, and click the purchase button. That works, but they still have physical spaces.
Sure. Thanks for that, Crystal. Who was first, Benjamin or Jeff? Benjamin, I think.
Okay, thank you. But I 100% agree to Christo. I think it will start with the product offering. I think we will see more and more standardized products that have certain hardware in the car, and you can also in the usage phase decide not only when you purchase at the beginning, but also later stage to book on certain apps functionality when you need it and when you want them. And with these new technologies, there is new demand or new requirement for further consultants. So we've seen new technology in the cars, how we interact, and this will then also lead to more hand-holding guidance to the customers to make them familiar with the usage of it, of ever-changing and new products.
Okay, thanks, Benjamin. Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's a very it's a very interesting proposition. I think most importantly is to understand where a brand is also potentially poised and where the brand is in its life cycle. So, let's say hypothetically we live in this world where people are willing to buy cars online end to end. What happens if you introduce a new brand? It's quite easy to go, I understand what the brand equity of, let's say BMW, because Benjamin's in the room. Absolutely, when you play in that luxury space with massive brand equity globally, it's far, far easier to see an end-to-end solution where people see that as hugely aspirational. I mean, if you look at the Audi City store in London, that's a key component there, where they really don't have inventory. They have large screens where you come and spec your vehicle. My question is if you have a challenger brand that nobody knows about, how do you get people to experience this brand if we live in a purely digital environment? And is that experience purely digital? Because there is this old saying that hands on the wheel seal the deal, and driving is still an experience. And I think I think unless vehicles become completely white labeled and become incredibly generic, I think there'll always be this need for an in-person experience. And what it may materialize in is far more service centers, okay, across the country and across the world, and far less selling floors across the world, and perhaps bigger brand experience centers for those who want to come and experience the brand. When talking about a challenger brand or launching a new brand, unequivocally, research shows that the more dealerships you have and the more bricks and mortar you have, the more trust people have in your brand. If I'm driving on the road every day and I see multiple Kia dealerships, I go, this is a brand I can trust. If you see 0 Polestar dealerships, can I really trust Polestar? Are they going to be there tomorrow? Is there a person at the end of that line, at the end of that phone, at the end of that chat when there's a bot? So I do still believe that there will be an experience that will be required. It's just to what degree is that? And at the moment, it certainly seems as if there'll be bigger brand experience centers, and then certainly a lot more service centers along the way to assist consumers.
Thanks, Jeff. Last question on this would be, last answer would be Asanda.
Thanks. I agree with Jeff on what he's saying. The way I see it, based on the question about the customer preference, is if you've got a vehicle, you can't service your vehicle online. You will have to take it physically to a dealership. And what the dealers should actually be more focusing on is to use that opportunity when the customer brings the vehicle for service, and to show them their latest model that is coming on board, and encouraging them, and also offering the test drives at that particular time when they are bringing the vehicle for service. A person will call or do an online booking for the service, and give about 30 minutes or so to show this particular customer on the brand, on the latest BMW. If they're driving a 3 Series or a 5 Series, this is the latest one that we've got, and these are the service terms. But if you go to our website, you can actually spec your own vehicle if you want to trade in this one, and these are going to be the benefits. I'm looking at what Take-A-Lot has actually done. We buy a lot of products on Take-A-Lot, and based on what you see on the website, you haven't physically seen, and you trust Take-A-Lot that they're going to deliver what you have actually ordered. So in the near future, this is where we're going to be going. But for the dealer network, one practical side that will never change is the after-sales support. A vehicle, the owner have to take the vehicle to the dealership. So once you have taken that vehicle to the dealership, the dealer must actually use that opportunity to expose the new products that are coming, so that when the person goes into the system, to the website to order, at least has physically seen the vehicle, and if there's an opportunity, they have even test driven that particular vehicle. So it's easy for them to make up their mind and make the order online. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Asanda. You know, there might come a time where your vehicle will drive itself to the dealership to get serviced, you know, so that's possible. There's also another well-known online distributor or retailer where what you buy is not what you get, but I won't mention the name. So guys, you know, if I look at the evolving situation of online, right? The next question is, how do you increase your brand equity and improve the customer experience with online tools? Now, Jeff said earlier, when you see a lot of dealerships, you believe and you feel like you can trust this, right? Now, you know, some of the, and I'm not going to mention names, some of the vehicle websites that I've been on, they're quite, it's cumbersome, it's sticky to go and navigate and find, and you know, pricing and specs, it's difficult. And also the pictures they show you is always a lot better than the actual car you're buying. And it doesn't improve credibility, in my opinion. How can you use online to take your credibility and your brand equity and improve on that? Jeff.
So I think if we're talking about how to build brand equity online and trying to build that trust, I think there's a couple of things. I think first of all, that customer experience, I think, needs to be optimized all the way through. So in other words, even if it does end up in dealer and 95% of the journey is online, how does that dealer experience align with that online experience? I think that that's critically important. I think secondly, I touched on it earlier, but electronic word of mouth is really, really important. I think EWOM is what will certainly build credibility online. So I think that's getting a lot of people into your car, getting people to review your car, sharing customer reviews as well, really trying to build that element of trust from those people who have experienced your car, have experienced your brand as well. I think if there's one brand that jumps to the front of the pile in terms of this omni-channel experience, I don't necessarily think that people will buy that brand any quicker because it's a seamless experience. What I think it does, I think it improves that brand equity, and I think it improves their idea of the brand. But fundamentally, I don't think brands will win because I don't think they build brand equity in prospects' minds based on how frictionless the system can be. Because vehicles are still hugely emotional purchases. And if I want a BMW M3, I want it, whether I can get my finance app done in a day or whether it takes a week. I fundamentally want that vehicle, right? So I don't think that building brand equity will be done because you have a more seamless experience in the prospect's mind. But certainly you can build this brand affinity and brand love by, and brand retention, I guess, consumer retention, by improving this experience along the way.
Thanks, Jeff. Tato?
Thanks. Yeah, I think a really big factor on that brand equity and the strength of brands is out of our hands, unfortunately, a lot of the time because of social media. People are going to get their feedback either from us directly or from their friends on Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook. Now it's up to us as brands to also get involved on the social media platforms to engage with customers. I think back when there was a time of semiconductor shortages and people asking about certain vehicles and certain issues with vehicles in general, a lot of response and feedback people were searching for on social media, not on brand websites. So there needs to be a part played by brands to say, look, we have to be active there as well. We can't just be active on our website and our dealers and be passive. We have to proactively go out there, update people, give them information on products, on our service providing, new vehicle releases. So I think our participation in social media has to increase and get smarter and meet the more active people on social media I wouldn't say in their language, but maybe at a pace and consistency they prefer. They want information now, they need to get it now. You find a lot in the banking sector when people have complaints and queries, they go straight to social media. They don't call the banks. I've seen it happen with vehicles as well now, where people go straight to social media for their communication, not just the website. So it's playing a really big part, and we have to be very active in that and participate.
Thanks, Tato. Building on that, as businesses, we all want to increase our sales. That's why we're there. And obviously we've got to make profit for the shareholder and so forth. Now, I know the vehicle industry can be quite cutthroat when it comes to sales, pricing, bargaining, discounts. Do you see that process changing or being influenced by online? And how do you see that happening? Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you for that. So basically, I feel one is it gives a great opportunity to be very targeted, and that's in the communication to the customer. We serve information that the customer wants and needs at a certain time that is relevant for them due to the data we have, due to the knowledge we have. And that's also due what you're relating to from a very customized offer. We know what the customer is driving, so let's go very targeted and offer this customer a key solution. Continue with the same amount, but drive the latest models. And I think there's a big chance not putting up a huge billboard with a red cut-through price tag, but a very customized and very targeted, not spray and pray, but really targeted and individualized approach in the communication and in the offering. I think there's definitely a big chance.
Thanks, Benjamin. Jeff.
I think to echo Benjamin's point, I certainly believe that. Look, I think it's actually happening at the moment. I think the online and digital space is certainly influencing that. I think it's fair to say that, you know, whenever people are cash strapped, they're looking to buy on price, no doubt. Naturally, for us as custodians of brands, we need to ensure that we continuously build the value into the product if our price isn't there, and that's fundamentally what brand equity is. But certainly, I think what helps advertising in a digital space is this idea of one view of a customer, this idea of understanding implicitly who your customer is, gathering that data and understanding where they are within their purchasing cycle, which is really difficult to ascertain in an offline space. So it certainly makes sense that we will see far more advertising in a digital space, and you know, truthfully, to call digital a channel at the moment is also antiquated. I think digital is just part of everything that we do nowadays. And I think any above the line activities or below the line activities outside of digital that we engage in is certainly to complement that digital experience. Because, you know, if you look purely at an ATL space, it's very difficult to understand where your consumer is and what their behavior is. So harking back to your point about whether we see this online space affecting this sort of heavily trading industry around discounts, absolutely, it's happening at the moment. It's a massive part of lead generation, which is this digital space, and I think it will continue to happen.
Thanks, Jeff. My next question is multi-layered. You know, there might be complexity in your space when you've got a single OEM pushing a particular brand or a particular make of a car, but you've got multiple dealerships, right? How do you balance that out? You know, is there opportunity now for dealerships to be focusing online versus the OEM? How does that balance out? And actually, you know, I'll leave it at that because my next question is slightly different. So let me ask that question. How do you deal with the complexity of an OEM campaign versus a dealership campaign online?
I think that would probably vary quite a bit from brand to brand, because I think we would all have certain guidelines, processes, and procedures in place to manage that specifically. I think it depends on the extent to which your retail network is allowed and or empowered to do their own marketing and their own campaigns. I know some brands have a very centralized approach for retail marketing. In our world specifically, it's about ensuring consistent alignment with what the brand is about, how the brand is conveyed, how the specific product brands is conveyed. And when you are running a retail offer or a discount or a promotion or whatever it is, the manner in which that is communicated. Because, you know, to use the example of the big red stripe through a price, those days are gone for most brands. That is not a differentiator. That is just showing everyone that you're in distress. So it's about being clever in communication. And I think ultimately communication is key with everything. And it's literally just using the various communications channels available, that omni-channel approach that we keep referring to, and making sure that the rules of engagement are properly defined and adhered to.
Thanks, Christo. Tato?
Yeah, I think from our end, even though the dealers are independent, they are our partners at the end of the day. So we try to collaborate as much as possible, but collaboration also means I'm sticking to, for example, our brand CI. Really just making sure that things are in line with the brand as a whole, not deviating from that to be too individual as a specific dealer. So we're more than happy to see it happen. I think some of them are really, really good at it, in fact. And it's just a matter of support as far as brand CI branding, whether it be for us on new sales or on Mastercard, which is our pre-owned division. We like to collaborate on that as far as branding and within dealerships and online where we can give support. We have tools for them. In fact, we provide online in a portal for all our dealers as well who are signed up to it, to give them certain collateral for marketing activities as well. So we definitely support it, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tato. Jeff?
Yeah, I think Tato and Christo has obviously spoken to the solution, but I just thought perhaps a little bit of context and insight for the audience. I think it's probably one of our biggest challenges as marketers, at least, because I think whenever you build a brand irrespective of whatever time frame it is, whatever period of time it is, you have to make sure that every single experience with your brand is one that is consistent, right? Every interaction. So at the moment, when you have a dealer network that may be a little bit fragmented, in other words, certainly for Mitsubishi Motors, we don't own any of our dealerships, and all of our dealerships are multi-franchised environments. In other words, one facility will have multiple brands. That means that curating a consistent experience from the digital realm all the way through to dealer is tough. It's not easy. I think the other challenge that you have is if you went onto Google now and you searched for a Kia Seltos, hypothetically, Christo, you'll see multiple results that pop up. So you'll certainly see the Kia OEM website or the importer website, okay? So that's owned by the brand. You will see a Motus retail network ad there somewhere. And then certainly along the way, you will find other third parties, whether they be independent dealers, multi-franchise dealers, used car portals. So ultimately, how do you curate this consistent experience, even in a digital world, where you go, this is what we have, and this is what our dealers have? And I think this is the thing that probably keeps us up most at night, is to go, how do you curate this consistent brand experience all the way through that process?
Thanks, Jeff. My next question, perhaps the last question, is, for any aspiring young person wanting to get involved in the automotive industry, what would be your advice, considering that the automotive industry is evolving and change will happen, So what would be your advice to any young aspiring person? Whose hand was, there's another platform, when you raise your hand, it numbers it. So this platform doesn't. I'm not sure who was first.
Asanda can go first.
Asanda, please go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for the question. We are living in a digital world. And if you want your brand to be marketable, you have to move with the times, of which the technology, which is the digital technology, plays a huge role. And Tato mentioned about the social media. There's a lot of advertising that actually happens in social media, and a lot of people are actually using the social media to sell their brands, not only in the automotive space. For anyone that would be looking at entering the automotive space, one will have to seriously invest into the digital technology in terms of the marketing and sales, and use every platform available and train their staff accordingly as to how to respond to those requests. And what is more important, if you would use an example with the insurance industry, if you go online and you want to purchase an insurance, whether it's for your car or for your household, trust me, within 15 minutes, somebody will have called you. So also in the automotive space for the online retail, they have to follow suit. You can't be putting a request online and then a day or so goes by without any response to you. So the turnaround time has to be as quick as possible and take lessons from the insurance industry. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Asanda. Next we have Benjamin.
Yeah, I can really encourage every young person to tap into the automotive industry. It's every morning a pleasure. When I start my car and drive to work, I'm always with a smile, but be open for changes. What happened in the 2 days ago might not be the practice in the future. So no matter if it's from a manufacturing background in an automotive context to the marketing or sales, you need to adapt to the environment, to the industry, to new trends and new technologies. So that's why stay open-minded, stay informed, but it's really worth to go into the automotive industry.
Thanks, Benjamin. Jeff?
My advice would be to stay away. I'm just kidding. I absolutely love this industry. I think it's a great industry. I think it's fantastic for a number of reasons. I think first and foremost, to be able to retail an asset or a liability, which is part of the challenge, with such a high price tag is an incredibly rewarding experience, you know, as a marketer, as a salesperson. I think getting those sales over the line can be incredibly rewarding. A little bit of advice I would give, which I think is a little aligned to what Benjamin was saying, is be curious. You know, keep looking out there and having a look, even at inspiration from other industries completely. Have a look at some of those trends that are happening. At the moment, it's a digital trend, but who knows in 20 years' time what those trends would be. Have a look. I think the other benefit that we have as an emerging market is we can learn from the more mature markets. We can learn from the West, where we see that the adoption of digital platforms is certainly a lot quicker than here. So we can certainly learn from those experiences. So be curious. Don't be scared to learn from other industries, and have a look at more progressive and mature markets as well, to gain a bit of insight as to where we can potentially win, but where, like, some of the mistakes that we could also avoid as well.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Tato.
I just wanted to say, in addition to that, I think never stop learning, and don't, I think, corner yourself as far as development within the industry and your specific career goals. For myself, for example, I'm in the brand team, but I feel like there's a need to be aware of the sales aspect of the business, marketing, PR, the digital side of it all. If you corner yourself into one aspect of it all, you're not going to grow. You're not going to learn enough. It's such a fast-paced industry, and it's so vast. I think, like Jeff said, look at the West and learn so much. I mean, I'm currently looking at what's happening in Asia, as far as them bringing cars into SA and what they're doing to the market, and it's hectic. So be fully aware of that, and never stop learning. Look outside of the country for learnings, especially. We're a drop in the ocean as far as this industry goes. So don't think this is it.
Thanks, Tato. Some very wise words there. Crystal.
There's actually very little I can add, because I think everyone has kind of covered those bases quite accurately and comprehensively. But you know, when I was thinking through this, there's that old adage that says you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. I think in the automotive industry, that is actually the opposite. You absolutely can and should probably be a jack of all trades, because while you might not necessarily master every element of the business, entrenching yourself in all those elements, understanding the bigger picture of how it all falls together, is definitely going to stand you in good stead, especially if you have a growth mindset and like Tato said, keep learning. You know, I've been doing what I'm doing for a while, and there's an inherent understanding of certain things, but every few months there's something specific that pops up and I'm like, I don't actually know what the hell I'm talking about. And that's an opportunity. You just re-entrench yourself, you dust it off, and you get to grips with it. So, you know, I'm the guy who talks about marketing and branding and advertising and PR and all these wonderful things. But I could just as easily talk about retail results, about distribution channels. Where is the truck that is delivering your car? You need to understand the full cycle. And I think the opportunities in automotive is endless.
For sure. Thanks, Christo. So for all you young folks out there, some very key points to consider. And I think the automotive industry, whilst relatively immature in terms of online, specifically in South Africa, I think there will be a time where online abilities, sales, and other aspects would be ubiquitous, and it'll be something that we'll all adapt to. Guys, as we conclude this webinar on automotive retail, navigating the shift of online and omni-channel sales, I think we can speak a lot more on many other points: AI, cybersecurity, data science. There are many other aspects we could talk, but unfortunately we have limited time. We hope you've gained valuable insights into this online webinar, and also had a glimpse of the future of the automotive industry. Embrace the opportunities presented by our esteemed panelists today, the advice they've given us, and some of the points they mentioned was customer-centric, seamless servicing from online to fulfillment at the dealership, and ever evolving and ever changing, and don't stop learning. So a lot of points to consider. I thank all of you guys for being part of this informative session, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Cheers and goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.